Hey YouTube, welcome back to part 12 here of our multiplayer game with Unity and Node.js series. Today we're going to be going over creating a pregame lobby. So what I mean by a pregame lobby is nothing super like UI fancy, is more just kind of showing how to set up the mechanics for our server-side game lobby to kind of have three states. We're going to have a pregame, the game which we currently have, and then we're going to add the end game, but we're going to work on that later. Or if you want to implement that as like a challenge yourself, you guys can go do that. We're just going to be worrying about the pregame. And mainly, the reason why we're worrying about the pregame is because if somebody in theory, if you had a large content level, someone in theory could load it faster. And then they could get in and start playing, and that's not really fair. So that's why you see games like League of Legends and stuff kind of have that loading screen where it has while it shows everybody like incrementally loading to 100, it does have the overall percentage bar. So we're not going to be showing any percents or any of that, but basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be loading in the game level, not spawning the character, and just showing them a pregame lobby screen. Once the second player, based on our settings being 2 players on a server, has connected, everybody will start the game at the same time. So just a little bit of lobby states, I guess, is what we're working on today. Okay, so if you guys want to open up your server here, I'm actually just going to go ahead and start this bad boy here, just so it's ready to rock. Okay, cool. So we're going to go into game lobby here. So the idea here right now is that the players are going to connect into the game lobby. We do the back end for the game lobby, just like the base stuff, and then we add the player. And this is when it actually like tells the game that we're going to be physically spawning the players. So this is going to get changed around a little bit. And then we have our load game, which on our client loads our level. So in order to hold a nice lobby state, we're actually going to create a utility class. So I know we have a couple other utility classes, but I'm going to start organizing them a little better in the hierarchy. So under classes here, we're going to create a new folder called utility. And under utility, we're going to create a new folder called lobby state. .js. Beautiful. And we're going to say module.exports. It's a class lobby state. So this is just kind of how I run different states. I just kind of have like an empty class that kind of has like some predefined stuff, and then I kind of have its current state. If you find you have a different way you want to tackle this issue, it's up to you. Go for it. So we're going to do our predefined states. I'm going to put these in all caps. That way you kind of know they're kind of like quote unquote, while they're not constants, they're kind of are in a sense. Oh, my bad. Semicolon. We're going to say this could be the lobby. And the content inside of it doesn't have to be uppercase. It can if you want, but it doesn't have to. If you end up doing it all uppercase like in the green here, just make sure you follow suit throughout the whole thing. There we go. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to say the current state of the lobby. And this is, I'm going to put lowercase because like all the rest of our stuff is lowercase. This isn't a constant. It's going to be getting changed all the time. And we're going to initially set it to lobby. Okay, cool. So if we go back to game lobby here, scroll up to the top. I'm going to say lobby state equal to require. I'm going to backslash this guy back to utility and then bring in lobby state. Beautiful. Create a new variable here called lobby state. And we'll make that a new version of lobby state. So what this is going to do is it's going to go create a new version of this class, and then we'll have the current state set to lobby, which is kind of handy. We don't have to do anything else but just kind of create the class. Okay, so when we enter the lobby, for now, we're just going to kind of comment out this add player. We're going to do a little different thing here. So you can just comment that out for now. First thing we need to do is, because we know we're in lobby state, when someone joins, we want to check to actually see if we can switch the state. So we're going to say lobby.connections.length. That's how many people have connected. And then we're going to run this against the settings here. Which in theory could actually be lobby.settings .max players. So this is the settings file. So if I go back to server here, and when we created the game lobby, we attached, right now we attached like an arbitrary like game mode flag. Eventually this will actually work, but one of the things we did attach was how many players it requires to start a game. So basically, if this guy connected, when it does the super, it'll change the connection length is equal to max players. I'm going to say console.log. We have enough players. We can start the game. Beautiful. At this point in time, we should update the lobby state now. So we're going to say lobby.lobbystate.current state. It's going to be equal to lobby.lobbystate.game in all caps there. Right, so we're just changing this variable now from this.lobby to this.game. And then we're going to add a little note, spawn all players in. And then we'll go do that. Okay, so before, when I was initially designing this, I used to pass in the lobby state in with the load game. And while that worked super handy, you also have to kind of update the lobby periodically for people that are already in it. So I actually just am going to make my own just event. So we're going to leave the load game here. This will just load its level. And instead, we're going to have one called lobby update. This will go to our player, and we're going to have some return data, which we are going to define up here. So return data is going to be equal to an object here. And for now, we're just going to pass in the state. So we're going to say lobby.lobbystate.current state. So what's this handy for? If you wanted to pass in all the names from your connections, so you have all the different player names, you want to pass an array there. Maybe you want to pass in a countdown timer. Maybe your game lobby has a 5-minute timer. Whoever joins, all the rest of the spots free get filled up by AI or something. So for now, we're just going to pass the state. But if you want to pass this certain stuff to kind of feed your UI, maybe it's the map index so they can see the icon of the map like you would in like a Call of Duty or something. Or maybe a voting scheme or whatever. So that can all get passed in through this lobby update. What's going to happen is this lobby update information is going to get passed to the game lobby on the client. And then you use whatever information you need to kind of update it in a sense, right? We're updating the lobby. Okay, so we updated it for ourselves. Let's update it for everybody else, because in theory, if player 1 was to join, they would get the first one, which they're in a lobby. But if player 2 joins, player 1 needs to now know that we're inside the game, and they can move to the game. So I'm going to say broadcast.to. I'm going to say lobby.id. We're going to emit this as this guy. So I'm actually just going to copy this end part here because no point in retyping it out. So we're just going to emit a lobby update to everybody that's in the lobby ID. Beautiful. Okay, so let's handle spawning everybody in while we're on the server. So I'm just going to put this underneath like the enter and leave stuff. It's kind of part of it, but I want to keep the rest away from the rest of the game lobby. So we're going to say on spawn all players into game. Cool. We're going to have reference to the lobby. we'll grab reference to connections. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the connections here. And then we're going to fire off the add player for them. And then we're going to make an adjustment to add player so you don't see duplicates. And I'll explain that when we get to the thing. So we're going to go through each connection. That's going to give us a connection here. So that's what's stored in the array. Little arrow function, and then we're going to say lobby.addPlayer connection. Beautiful. Okay, so we need to update add player. So I'm just going to hit F12. We're going to go down to add player here. And what we are going to change is we don't want to broadcast others that we've spawned. So if you come in late into the game, you want to tell others that you've spawned. But because we're looping through all the connections in the game, this essentially, tying these two together, will spawn multiples of your client on your server. Or sorry, it'll spawn multiples of client 2 on client 1. So in order to prevent that, we're just going to not broadcast. So what we're going to do is we're going to emit to ourselves, emit to this connection of the ID, and then tell everybody, and then tell myself about every other connection that's inside of it. So we're already inside together. No one else is joining. So that's fine. It'll work like that. So yeah, so you can just comment that out for now. I wouldn't really remove it. Probably in the future, you'll probably have things where people can like join mid-game and stuff. And knowing this line itself is probably pretty handy. Okay, let's go back to the server. Okay, so if you go back to your server here, we're gonna add a couple of things. So one of the comments in the last video, let's see here. Is this still here? Yeah. Okay. So one of the comments in the last video was my use of the why do I have this function here? And when I initially designed my systems, I actually used this function instead of the built-in like JS one. So if you guys want to come back to index here and just like delete this function, it's not actually needed. It's just kind of a waste that's sitting there. And I thank you for Buddy that pointed that out. Okay, so I'm gonna save that. The next thing we're gonna do as well is I had a comment on the Discord about how to properly close down lobbies. So one of the things we don't actually do is that when people disconnect, the lobby doesn't actually like get removed. It kind of just stays there. So if you had 10 games get created and then just only 2 people ever play your game after that, like you just have 10 lobbies sitting there, and you don't need that. So one of the first steps I'm going to show you, you have to put this in a couple places. I'm just going to put it when someone disconnects to do this check, but feel free to do this when everybody leaves like a lobby or something, or a game lobby's closed. You guys can do this type of cleanup. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need the instance to the lobby itself here. So we're going to say let's current lobby index equal to connection dot player dot lobby, and then we're just going to replace that here, and that's because I need the index for the next part. So that's our same stuff. It performs the lobby cleanup. And then we're going to say if server.lobbies current lobby index is not equal to 0. That's our intro hub, right? Where everybody connects to. And server.lobbies at current index connections length is equal to 0. So if we're not the hub and our game lobby doesn't have anybody in it, then we're going to do a console log here, and we'll say closing down lobby current lobby index. And we'll Let's close that off from there. And then we're going to do a server.lobbies. We already know the index, so we can just say, so we don't have to go find it. We can just say we're going to splice the current lobby index for one element and close that. So what this will do is that if you go into the game and then you close the game, the server will essentially just kind of remove this lobby and no longer needs it. So if you had like AI and stuff, like you don't need it. If you find your game where you want to persistently like update AI, like in Tiny Dungeoneers, for example, I keep the rooms going, so the AI is always there. I'm respawning new AI and stuff. So if you have situations like that, then you don't need that. But if you had random dungeons or if your game's similar to this one, then having that lobby cleanup is super handy. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the client now. I believe we are all done. We'll see. As you get going in all these tutorials, you have so many spaces where you have little lines to add, and you're like, oh no, did I remember to do everything? Okay, so we are gonna go into our online scene. So this is how I typically work. If you want to work differently and have your own online UI scene, that's completely fine for you. Or maybe you have a game lobby scene. It really doesn't matter. So we're going to add a couple things. We're going to add a blank object here in the online scene. I'm going to just call this code. So the way I like working is I like having my code in the UI and then kind of the code that drives it into a code object. And I like keeping the network one by itself. So you'll see I'll have code and code networking. We're also going to need a miscellaneous folder. This is just for the event system here. You only ever need one event system inside your game. But if you're working multiple scenes, sometimes when you add UI elements, Unity adds it by itself. So if you kind of just like give in after the first time, then you're fine here. So I'm just going to right click, go to UI, have a canvas here, and you'll see it creates the event system. We'll put that there, and we'll drag the canvas above it. This ordering doesn't really matter that much. I prefer, because this is dynamically like adding stuff all the time, that the canvas sits above it. And I'm just going to hit F2 here, and then I'm going to rename this to Game Lobby, because eventually you might have one that's called Endgame or something, so it's up to you. I'm going to keep clicking on it. I'm going to go into scale with screen size. I'm going to just put this to default 1920 by 1080. It's your call what you do. I just like having things scale, and I prefer scale by height. Play around with those settings. Basically, you can set, if you're working off an iPhone, you can set your reference resolution there. And then you can do like 50.5 or whatever, so it's kind of scales together. I prefer height. Okay, cool. So I'm going to right click inside this guy. I'm going to hit create empty. Because it's a canvas, it'll create me a rect transform. I'm going to call this container. I'm going to open up this panel. I'm going to hold down Shift Alt. You'll see how holding down Shift, you can see the little dot. Holding down Alt kind of goes all the way across. And basically what we're doing is we're setting the stretch mode in both directions, horizontal and vertical, and then setting everything to 0. So basically it's just going to kind of scale with this, the screen. Inside there, we're going to have an image. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to scale it to the back. And I don't know, we'll choose some sort of nice blue for now. Cool. Double click on that to bring it out. We'll rename that to background. And I'm going to use text in a row. If you want to use the regular text, you can. It'll work the same. Let's make sure I can actually spell back there. Oh my gosh, I did it twice. Oh. Okay. Somehow changed my keyboard to French. Okay. Round 3. There we go. Okay, we're gonna call this title text. This is just to simply know that we're in the game lobby screen. I'm gonna pin this doing Shift Alt to the left. I'm gonna do 25 and then negative 25 to bring it down a bit. I'm gonna make this 300 for now. You can use other content size filters, a bunch of other different stuff to get your width properly set. For now, it doesn't matter. And especially if you're new to like UI in general, I want to make my own series on UI, so I'm not gonna go too much in depth on this stuff. But if you're interested in that sort of stuff, the videos will start coming out soon. Okay. We're gonna make the class now to kind of control that. So we have the UI, we have the container. Basically, we turn the container on and off. We lose all our UI, which is good. So we're going to code, go to create folder. We're gonna call this user interface. And then we're gonna right click, create game lobby. Beautiful. Okay. So we're gonna make sure the namespace here is project.utility. Oh, sorry. User interface. Okay. And so we need reference to the container. So serialize field, bring in and make sure it's a game object. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be turning the container on and off. So this little checkbox here is game object level. So if we grab reference to the game object, we can use a set active function in order to turn it on and off, which is super handy. If you had the script onto the container itself, you would lose, like, not reference, but you wouldn't be able to call stuff on it because it's off, which is why I'm going to put the code on that code object. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to set up some things inside network client. So we're going to set up an event inside network client in order to call a function in this class without really having reference to each other. So the only thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to come back here, is say initially turn off screens. So like I said, if you wanted to do an endgame screen, other different game screens that you need, you can have them stored in here. I'm going to say game lobby container .set active false. This is basically that check mark. And while we're here, I'll just quickly do the event, like the function call we want to be called. So I'm going to say on game state change. This is going to bring in a socket IO event. So let's see if that's this is, I'm going to bring in, so make sure you guys bring in the namespace for this if it's going to do it. Yeah, so make sure you guys bring in the using socket IO in order to get socket IO event. So what this does is going to pass our game object. So like network client, we can access this by saying edata state string, and state will match we'll match our return data. And while I'm actually on the server here, because we have this function here now, we can take this out. We can go to lobby on spawn all players in the game. So make sure you guys go back to game lobby. You guys replace that and call our new function here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back into the scene, go to code here, attach game lobby to it. I'm going to drag the container into it. So now it has reference to this game object. I'm going to save online. Okay, I'm going to go back to the script. Kind of going all over the place. Apologize for that. We're going to create a switch statement here for state. The default one you're going to notice basically kind of follows with the lobby state, but just make sure you do have the default. So first one we're going to do is case game, and this is the actual text that's located here. So like I said, if you made this all capitals, this is where you'll have to make this all capitals as well. We're going to say break. Actually, we'll make this easier. We'll add the container. We'll set active false. So you can do a couple things. So when you have a bunch of screens like this, and you're going to do a switch and turn some on and off sort of stuff. If you make it easier on yourself and just above here, turn all the ones off first, and then these only show which ones are turning off. It makes it a little bit easier for you. I won't be doing that in this, but once you get into a bunch of screens, it's just kind of a handy thing to know. And this one will be lobby. This one's true, so make sure that we are turning the lobby in the lobby screen. Otherwise, if it's game, endgame, or some random string that got passed, it's going to turn it off. And the last thing we need to do is hook into the event, which we have not created. So we will go into here, and at the top, we'll start creating events. So we haven't created an event before, so I'm going to be using just a system action here in order to set up. So this can be a public and static. So you'll notice this is static. The reason why I make it static is because you never really should have more than the one network client, but we don't really want the class itself to be static. It's similar to client ID, where it's something handy that we need to reference. It's not going to talk to other things inside this class. It's just feeding us data. So this allows us to easier hook up to network client if it's static. So we're going to do an action. This is part of the system library, so make sure you have using system. You should. We'll do a second IO event on game state change. Okay. Some people here will just kind of leave this here, and then they'll have to do a null check when they go to invoke it. I like just kind of setting it by default. If you set something in here that's just blank, you don't have to actually perform the null check unless you, in theory, cleared it. I'm a little lazy, so I gotta do it that way. The other thing we're gonna do now is we have to create our on event, right? So if I go back to the game lobby, we have a lobby update. So I'm gonna go into here. We're gonna say lobby update. It's gonna pass us E, which contains some data. And then what we're going to do is we're going to call our little function, or a little action up here at the top here. And we're going to say invoke with E. So you can actually call this in a couple ways. You can do this as well. I like using the invoke keyword. I like actually having the invoke there. It tells me that it's an action. This, to me, when I read it, is like, oh, I have a function somewhere. So it looks a little weird. It's up to you which one do you want to use, really. I'm going to use the invoke. And it's okay. So what this is going to do is that anybody who subscribed to this will invoke to it. So the cool thing about actions is it kind of holds like anybody who wants to subscribe to it will get this event. So it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily a one-to-one connection. If you had other classes that wants the on-game state change, then that's fine. So now we're going to go into game lobby here, and because it's static, I can type in network client as long as I have the using project networking, and I can say dot on a game state change. And what we're going to do is we're going to subscribe by doing a plus equals, and it's like, okay, well, which function do you want me to call when you subscribe? And I'm going to say on game state change. And you'll notice that this here with the socket.io event matches this here. So what the action does is it the T's here inside of it are which parameters match. So socket.io event, this E will now be a socket.io event. My function has a socket.io event. Okay, so we're going to subscribe to it. It's going to go into here. It's going to grab the state string and then turn things off. Cool. Let's go wire things up. Okay, so just double checking, we have code, the links to container down here. And let's test everything out. So server is running. Let's go into here. And we're gonna hit join now, and you'll see that we are in making a new lobby, and now we've entered the game lobby state. And if I open up online here, you'll see nobody's spawned yet. And okay, so I'm gonna bring open quickly just another client here. Hit join now. And when I hit join now, you'll see we have enough players to start the game, right? And it immediately pushed us into the game. If I start driving around on both clients, we're all good, and we can start playing the game, right? If I shoot buddy with client 2 enough times, he should die. Okay. You know what? I swear. There he is. Okay, he has more health. I was like, on my testing one, he dies in like 2 hits, and I'm like sitting here, I was like, why is he not dying? Okay, and then if I close this, you'll see somebody's disconnected, and if I close my other client, he'll disconnect, and you'll see I'm closing down lobby 1. So what would happen is if I left the other one and then somebody else joined, it would cause different issues. Alright guys, so what we're going to do is, if you guys want to do a little challenge here, in the can enter lobby, try and have it so a player can't join mid-game. I'm going to leave that to you guys and see what you guys think about that. Our next tutorial for part 13 is going to be on doing some AI, which I think will be pretty fun. It'll allow you to play against yourself. Nah, just joking. It'll allow you to play against AI that will try and move around and shoot and that sort of stuff, and kind of show you how AI inside Tiny Engineers and stuff is working. Yeah, so as always, guys, have a good one. Make sure you guys check out the Discord, that sort of stuff. And we'll see you guys later. Hey guys, I just wanted to make sure that I give a nice shout out to all my Patreons over on Patreon. They're going to be in the following list for you. Jaren Frost, The Buttholer, Jukra, Arthur Zhang, Pawn Theory, Comrade. Hey everyone, if you guys liked the video, make sure you guys click that subscribe button, give it a like, and make sure to comment. It really helps out. And if you guys are looking to support the project further, I also have my Patreon, which will be linked in the description down below. Thank you, and have a good day.